What's up, y'all? This is Coach Lorraine Lindsay, and you are watching another episode of the Mind Setters with my fabulous lipstick ladies, Charlene and Carmen. And Charlene, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's Charlene, and I am a coach in fitness and finance. I've been in the real estate mortgage business for almost 21 years in August, and I really enjoy this. I'm so grateful to be a part of this show with my girl Lorraine here, and we're just here to share some wisdom with everyone.
Lovely. And Miss Carmen.
Hi, I'm Carmen Smith, your local real estate agent. You could find me at Carmen_Smith_realtor, and I'd love to help you find a new home or sell your existing home.
Lovely. And of course, this is me, Coach Lorraine Lindsay. You can find me at CoachLorraineLindsay.com or follow me at Coach Lorraine Lindsay on Instagram. So here we are again, ladies, and today I want to talk about the topic of letting go. Why is it so difficult for us to let go of things, such as like relationships that are, past their prime, they've expired, or careers, being on a job or in a career choice that you don't have passion for, but you feel kind of like you're stuck there, or even like when our kids are starting to get older and being able to let go of them and let them kind of grow up and be adults.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me personally, I'm going through all three things at the same time right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning to really just let go has been quite the obstacle for me, particularly because it's in all facets of my life right now. So who kind of wants to start and touch on that?
I could start. I know relationships are, you find yourself in a familiar place with somebody and there's a safety even in the toxicity of it. You find comfort because it's dependable. You know what that person brings to you. You know what that person is going to do. You know how they're going to react. So there's no surprise versus finding somebody new to deal with and not knowing what they bring to the table.
What happens when they stop bringing what they have to the table, but you still keep holding on?
As far as the
relationships,
the toxicity of it?
Well, let's say for many years, there was this thing that, that you could depend on for, or, that person was going to do this, that, or the other, and it stops, but yet you still stay, you're stuck.
I think sometimes we hold on to the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hold on to the things that made us feel good when we first met them, or that, they did, or they continue to do the small things, and you hold on to that because you're like, well, maybe they'll see why, what I'm saying when it's bad, and you just hold on to the good stuff.
I think it's also like the fear of the unknown in all aspects, right? Like, so for the relationship thing, at least I know for myself, sometimes you are, your relationships are habits. We're creatures of habit. That's the nature of human beings. And when we get into relations with people, there is a pattern that's created, and we create habits with those people. And when we're trying to break out of that, it's almost like you feel like this gap, like you're missing something. And it's that saying of like, it's easier to sometimes deal with what you know.
The devil you know versus
the devil you don't know. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think even for me, that's always been a hard part, especially for me recently, because I've had a relationship that was 7 years in the making, on and off again and on and off again. And just always, thinking, okay, this time it'll be different. This time we'll get it right. And I mean equally, whether it was me who was the culprit or he that was the problem. It was always like, well, at least he checks off a lot of boxes, and so I don't want to go out there into the world, especially as I get older. It's scary, to feel like, do I really want to go out there and meet new people and risk my heart being hurt
Is that what
again?
happens? Is that why people stay after so long? You think?
I think so.
I think also too, the thought is the grass isn't always green on the other side, right? Where you feed it, where you water it, it'll grow.
Right.
But how do you know you've watered it enough and it's just not growing anymore, right? It's just the branches are done. There's no more seeds left.
When you've poured into somebody. I think at least for me, I because I'm a bender. Like I'm a runner, and I'll shut down and I'll want to get out as quickly as possible. But the pursuit of that person, I always find myself bending. But in every bend, I try to, like Carmen likes to say, I like to be over accountable sometimes.
I'm a fixer.
She's a
so
fixer, yeah.
I'm a fixer.
And so what I'll do is I'll say, okay, well, this thing about this person is driving me crazy, or this is what I'm feeling like I can't spend my rest of my life dealing with these issues. However, what am I bringing to the table that's a problem? And then really trying to fix it. So when you're doing all that work on one person, with one person, and you'll see subtle changes and no changes and all that, it's again, you just kind of get roped into it. And it's so hard to let it go. Even it's almost like an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You're addicted to those patterns and those habits with that person.
And you've invested time, energy, and it's like, ugh, if he could just get this one little thing, everything would be okay.
But here's the other part to it. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? But what if the growth is in you? Even in those staying and holding on, there's that thing you haven't learned yet that you have to learn. Once you learn it, then it changes the whole view of what's going on. Because I believe our biggest teachers are our partners, the people we have in our life.
I agree. I think your greatest challenges will be your best teachers, regardless of what those challenges are. But sometimes the biggest lesson that you need to learn is the lesson of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we make excuses to stay when we know that it's time to move on. And it's very difficult to do that, you know? I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I think a lot of that comes down to beliefs.
Okay.
You know, what we believe. And that's what dictates how we stay or how we hold on. Because letting go for some may be like, you know what? I believe this is not my life. I don't care if I need to help you or I'm learning. I'm out because I have that belief that it's going to be better on the other side, right? But there's that thought too of what we have inside of us that creates that. But to the point, the growth is always there. And if we're not growing to learn what's next and we're stuck, that challenge is going to continue to show up because it's expired. There's no growth left.
There's always growth, but if two people are not willing to grow or continue to learn simultaneously or together, you know, one person is like, well, I feel this way and that's it. And I feel this way and that's it. And we never align together to grow. You know, you're constantly fighting a battle to try to get to the same place. And it's like, sometimes you just got to be like, enough is enough. We tried and we got to let it go. And hopefully you can find that with somebody else.
There is this great course that I took several years ago. It was called the Landmark Forum. And one of the things that I learned, it was a total full immersion course where you're really, you know, pouring, like you're learning who you are. You're learning all your blind spots. And it was an intense class, but it really taught me a lot about myself. And there's, you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And in one of those things that it talked about in relationships that often and again, it doesn't just necessarily pertain to like intimate relationships, but it could be with our children, for example. But we're always running these rackets, right? We're always defending a position to be right and so I feel like when we're stuck in that, where you did this, but you did this, and you did that, and you did this, and we keep pointing fingers, there is a payoff with that. You know, it's like, okay, well, if I make you wrong, it makes me right. Or if I justify myself, then I unjustify you. And we get roped into battling out relationships just to win.
So
is it the story we tell ourselves?
Well, I think it's...
I mean, because we can change that.
I'm usually
by
right,
the mind,
so.
you know? But we can, I mean, we can, our mind is so, I bet you
So
are,
there's
girl.
no
I know,
fight,
right?
no?
Yeah. But, doesn't help.
But ask that question again. Say
No,
that again.
sorry.
'Cause I think
Is it the story we tell ourselves? Because I believe, too, oftentimes people stay in relationships because they change their story in their head. And they can see things in a different way.
Oh, it's the lovely cognitive dissonance, right? It's we're making excuses. So it's like, for example, it's like this person does this, okay, and it could be a very toxic thing, a very toxic behavior towards you. But then you'll say, well, it's not that bad because at least they do this, and this for me. You know, and also on the reciprocal of that, the person will say, well, I don't see why my behavior is so bad when I love you this way, that way, this way. And what I have had to learn in order to really be clear on my decision to let go is to really separate all of those components. It's to say, you know, I'm not concerned with who you are in your light. In other words, when you're loving me. Those are great things and those are not the problem, but they're also not what you get to use as a rite of passage for the problem. The problem is the problem. And if we're in a space, and it's not to make you a wrong person, it's to say, you know, what you choose to do with me, I'm teaching you to treat me that way. And that is, it's not that this person's the problem, it's that we are the problem, because I'm also a participant. And when I get clear on my role in that light, and I tell myself, I'm going to share with this person that I will no longer tolerate this. And I have to mean it, but with that, there has to be consequences, because I care about myself enough to create those boundaries.
Yes.
And by the way, it doesn't take away the fact that I love you. But if you continue to mistreat me this way, I have to tell you goodbye. And I have to be comfortable enough to say, yes, this person loved me. Yes, these are great qualities this person has. Yes, these are the great memories that we have. Yes, yes, yes. But am I not important enough that I can't have that someplace else without the but?
Right, that but.
Yeah.
That but gets in the way.
I
Right?
like
It's like
big
I
butts
love
and I cannot lie.
I love this person, but I can deal with this person, but it's like being clear with yourself and being honest to yourself. Like, maybe I put up with that 5 years ago. Maybe I dealt with that 5 years ago, but today I don't want to deal with that anymore. I need, and just like you said, I'm teaching you how to treat me. And if a person can't get that, and I'm constantly bending or, making excuses, or they
upon a time they
change,
did and something
or
shifted.
they've created a new habit,
I think
There's
that's
just certain
actually
things you
difficult. Sorry to cut you off. I think that's also very difficult sometimes for our partners, is that, what is the Wayne Dwyer says it, when you change the way you look, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And I think I mentioned that last week. But I think as relationships evolve, also as independent people, we evolve, we change, and we grow, especially when we're seeking growth. I'm a growth seeker. It's a very big part of me feeling fulfilled is to grow. And sometimes in relationships, what you were when you met them and who you have become, you're either growing together or you're growing apart. It doesn't mean that either person's wrong.
Oh, right, yeah.
And just sometimes the person's so used to you being in that
way.
cycle with them that when you are like, I've had enough, I don't want this cycle, it's confusing for them because they're so accustomed to
That behavior.
the pattern. Yeah, the behavior.
I remember Charlene said in one of our other shows, you said, once you see it, you can't unsee it, or something like that.
You
And
can't
it's
unsee
like,
what you see.
if I saw you this way, and that was 7 years ago, am I still seeing you that way? Or have I actually opened my eyes to see the new person evolved 7 years later? Because we've all made changes,
Right,
whether they're
right,
for the
that's
good
fair.
or the bad. So both ways,
Yeah.
not just from our partners, but from our perspectives as well.
And once you get an understanding of that good that's there, that's what's hard to let go, because you see the potential, or you believe the potential, because once upon a time, whether it's going to exist in the future or not, it was there. So you reflect back, but we also were different then too. So
Right,
fast
right.
forwarding into all those obstacles, but then it also comes to how much responsibility are we putting on the other person. So that's how I feel, in general. And also, being in a covenant, a marriage, it's like my letting go is going to be a lot harder perhaps than someone that is in a, or maybe not. I mean,
No, I think that's fair. I think that merits, I think that's fair. I
Yeah,
think when
there's a
you
commitment.
make because I was married before and I wasn't married as long as I have been with this person that is recently ending. We had a long relationship, although we were not married, but there was something psychological about ending a marriage that made it really, really difficult. Not to say that the ending of this relationship isn't difficult, but it's a different level of commitment. And there's that thing of saying before we take that next level, because we were ready to take that next step by getting married. But so it's like, before we take this next step, is this how I want to spend my forever with someone? And not to put the burden on the person, because they are who they are in every good way, bad way, indifferent way. And by the way, so am I. I won't sit here and say I'm perfect. It's just sometimes you just got to let go and see your growth someplace else.
But in fairness, when you're in a relationship that's a committed relationship, whether it be marriage or you're going to get married to this person, at this age, I think when we say have a boyfriend, which I'm like, I'm too old for a boyfriend, but I'm looking to get married, right? So there's some expectation that I do put on that other person. Well, is that fair? I mean, you can't just be in my life and I have no expectations from you, or I don't expect you to take care of me a certain way. So to say, what kind of expectations are we putting on that person? It's like,
well, when you're starting into that, hopefully it's clear what you're
Right.
what you're looking
Right.
for and what you're seeking, and it's mutual.
Right.
So in that regard, I get it. But if it's not discussed or understood, that's kind of tough, because
Yeah.
how do they know that's what you want if it's not expressed?
Well, that is
right?
true, and that's, to me, the key is obviously communication. I always say that, trust, love, and communication, TLC. Those are the three things that keep a relationship good and vibrant and healthy. But when certain things start to break down, whether it's trust, and trust doesn't necessarily mean infidelity, but when you stop trusting your partner, when you cannot communicate with your partner, that's a breakdown. And it will alter love and respect, which I think kind of go hand in hand. And I think that when you've kind of exhausted those things, you have to say, we've grown. There's so much we've learned together, but you get exhausted, and if the relationship starts to chip away at you, and you're not feeling the growth. Not to say that the person hasn't grown, that you haven't grown, but sometimes you just have to
Do you know what song comes to my head? I'm sorry.
What?
Boys to Men, End of the Road. You know the lyrics to that song? Yeah, but it's, I know, but it's
very depressing.
It's about relationships. That's what he talks about. or
Let's
they
go
talk
right
about.
on a boat and
Right.
hold hands
Let's
and
hold
just
hands and
sing.
kumbaya to the next island.
Right.
But so
bigger
let's move
island.
on from that, because I want to kind of touch on the whole moving on when it comes to, or no, not moving on, excuse me, letting go when it comes to careers and purpose in your life. I hear this a lot, by the way, but from a lot of people, especially in our age group, where they've maybe raised their kids and their kids are getting older, or they have small kids, or they had a career and they thought this is what they were going to do, and it's all like, I would really love to be doing this, but I don't know how to let go of this security. Like, I have this job, I know it's there, I know it's going to pay the bill, especially after this pandemic, where we all kind of got a pause, where you got a chance to kind of like sit around and really like think. I mean, obviously there are some people who had, a lot of things to be stressed out about or whatever, but it also gave us a break. And I think people now are going back to work and they're just like, I don't want to be here. And I don't know how to let this go and really follow my heart and what I want to do. So what do you all have to say about that? Because I think I struggle more with letting go of that than anything else in my life.
I did well. I've been fortunate in a sense. I've always worked for myself, so I've never had that like I have to hustle to make money. I don't have that security of keeping a job, but I've always loved everything I did. But over the pandemic, I did decide to go full time with real estate and try to retire from the beauty shop, but I work 1 day a week, so it actually was part of being still, like you said, and just realizing that I can make more money doing hair and just really making the decision and just doing it. But I don't know what it's like to be in a job where I feel like I have security of a pension and retirement and, like I won't leave because of those reasons.
But still, yet you were, 20 years or so in the beauty industry doing hair and whatnot. And there was a security with that. You had your clients established to go from another, as an independent contractor in another way via real estate, to transition and be able to say, I have to let this go when it's so secure. How did you make that decision to really?
Or why?
Right,
I made
that's
the
good, yeah.
decision because I was already making money doing real estate. So I figured if I put more attention on it, I could make more money doing real estate. And I loved it. Yeah. So it wasn't like I just said, I'm going to start real estate and quit hair. I already had built up traction. I already had a clientele. So it was a little bit more comfortable for me to say, I'm going to give this up because I was already doing that and making money doing it. So it was difficult because I had to let people go, clients who've been committed to me and, and just, that was my life. That was my thing. It was easy. I could do it with my eyes closed. So to do something different, I just decided though, that's really what it was. I just decided.
For me, I'm on the flip side of that because I have a corporate job, right? And I've been very blessed and I've been very successful in that field, and I'm paid very well, so it's a huge income to have to completely get rid of, provide not on top of my investments and my 401k and my life or my health insurance and all of those things that come with having the position that I have. But there is like this pulling away of me every time I have to go in and do that job, knowing that it's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think it became more clear to me when my son graduated from college and now he's off to do his own life. It's like the grind, the hustle, what led my success was working and striving for him. And when I hit that peak of success so early, I mean, I was making more money than I ever expected to ever make at a very earlier age, but it was all provisional for my son. And now that provision isn't needed, there's this thing of like this tapping at me that says, now go do your purpose, now go do something. But it's that scariness of saying, God, this is so secure.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it pretty good. I mean, I've traveled the world. I've got to meet some of the most amazing people. I work for a great company. How do I let that go and really follow my heart? You know, it's hard. It's hard to let that go. What about you?
Well, I'm like the Jamaicans. I've always done many things.
Well, I
'cause
am
I
Jamaican.
know.
I feel you. Bon
Well,
plat.
so they say. I mean, I got married very young. I waited tables, went to school, was a wife, went into the real estate business. I mean, all of that. And I managed it somehow. Even in my current, I still manage my fitness. I still manage because I like it and I enjoy it. So for me, like you, I'm very fortunate to do things that I really am passionate about. I've never worked a corporate job, but I hustled tables, I slang food, you know, in my earlier years. But I was disciplined enough and aware enough to know that's not what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
The money was great. I was super young, making a lot, but that was my out. That afforded me the life that I have now and the ability to grow into something else. And knowing that if something ever happened, I can always fall back on that. Like that's a skill. Like you can just go back to. You know, I'm not an executive in a corporate position, but I'm an executive today in my position,
Right.
you know? So, and I own
Right.
that because I create my wealth and I
Right.
create my destination. Thank God, you know,
Right.
that first. But in my younger years, yeah, and I also had a husband. And so he had his salary and that helped me pursue my things as well because he was there to help with that in his own way. We always kept things separate, but we had each our own responsibilities.
So if
And that was
people were
important.
listening to us, though, I mean, if they were like in that situation where they're like, I'm ready to let go of a thing, whatever that thing would be, you know, what are things that you know that you've had to let go of?
I'm
And
still
how
learning
did
a lot
you,
of that.
and how did you let go?
I had to let go of some of the things I believed in my
Oh,
mind.
interesting.
Yes,
That's
because
deep.
yes, my
Well-
beliefs were challenged many times, and it's that strong mind that I have that this is what I believe. Once I learned how to loosen
How
that
did you
up,
overcome that? Like, how did you let that go?
experiences. I just had to. I reflect back. I'm very like in my head a lot too, and I look at things, and I also put myself in positions where I can grow outside of that thing that I'm trying to let go of.
Can you give an example of one if it's not too
Let me see.
vulnerable?
Letting go.
Because that's interesting to.
I
Because
think
when you
that's
know
the
something
key.
and you're like, no, this is how it is.
Yes.
That's, like to change that is like that's
Yeah, but you also listen to this, and you know, not to sound woo woo, but I pray a lot about everything. And when I hear this, and my mind tells me, and it connects, that helps me make a decision and change my belief because I find a clearer belief on the other side of that, and it helps me. But it changes, right? So when I talk about beliefs, I talk about why we stay too, and why we can't let go because it's a belief that we have that we tell ourselves,
Right.
you know, that keeps us there. What if, whatever, you know, but
That is so, I love how you always say you give us these little nuggets every single time. And that's what this whole podcast thing is about, mindset. And you just said it right there. It's really everything that we're stuck on, that we're having a hard time letting go of. It is because we believe something about it. And if you believe a thing, you just follow through with that. So if I believe, for example, relationship wise, that I'm 41 years old, am I going to be able to meet anybody? There's all these crazy people out there. Do I just stick with this thing and I believe that this is the best I'm ever going to get? Then I'm going to stay stuck in that, you know? Or if I say to myself, you know, no, I'm amazing. I'm in the best space in my life right now. I love who I am. I'm established and I have gotten over a lot of emotional hurdles. And now I'm ready to be in my highest vibration and see what that attracts.
Right.
That's a whole different mindset with the same set of circumstances.
hence to your title.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
So when you said that, I've changed what I believed. I think that's powerful.
That's very powerful.
You know, because even that goes into your career, whether you are a different type of entrepreneur, you've tried different things. For me, it's corporate going into more of my entrepreneurial stuff. It's that thing in my mind that has the belief system that says, well, I can do this. You know, I'm not going to be foolish and just chop everything off, But if I believe that I can do a thing, then I can create the circumstances to make that flow, and so I can move into it. But the last thing I want to do, this is my whole thing about letting go, is I don't want to live my life with choices of griefs like we talked about last week. Like, I don't want to be miserable in a relationship, or always battling with my partner, or going to work and saying, why am I here? And I'm clear that I get to choose otherwise now. And now that I'm clear on that, the next step is, okay, what are the steps? What is it that I really need to do, and who do I need to be to have a life that is more fulfilling for myself? What does that mean? What does it look like? And really getting clarity and defining that.
What gives you energy? What lights you up? Follow that.
Big fat bank account.
Well, then if that's what it takes, then what can you do with
Just
your
kidding.
gifts
Kinda.
and you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you know that. You know that. But then we also know at the end of the day, we can have all the money and not be happy.
Right.
So that's, fulfillment to
That
me.
is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've learned that, like I said, I was blessed I remember, like, I always had this laser focus on making a certain amount of money. So everything I did, every job I applied for, every career I chased was all about, well, how much does it pay? And the reason why, and my why was compelling. My son is going to have a different life than I had. He's going to go to college.
Amen.
He's not going to
Yes.
struggle. And so it was so compelling that I just went after it. I went for jobs I wasn't even qualified for, but I was just like, this is the money I'm going to make. And I made that money way faster than I thought I would ever. To the point where I was intimidated, thinking, "Oh my gosh,
You wrote it.
they're
you had
giving
a
me
goal.
right. They're
Yeah.
giving me this position, and I'm making this much money. What if I'm not good enough?" And I had those doubts, but I put myself in a position that I had no choice but to make it work. And I did that because I had such a compelling why. So now the challenge is, okay, my son is done.
But you went all in.
I went
That's the
all
key
in.
too.
I went all in because my why was compelling enough for me to go
Yes.
why. So now, when it comes to, I too, I want to get married again, one day, and have my partner and have a power team, and I want to build certain things, and I'm very clear on that. What I haven't been clear about, which is why I'm in that limbo so much, is I haven't found what's compelling enough. And my son, ironically, says to me, "Well, why aren't you compelling enough? Why can't you be the reason?"
Your son's
And I'm
very
like,
smart.
"Whew,
I
that
like him.
just makes your mama want to cry," because it's true. I didn't have that much love for myself that I was worthy enough to have better relationships, better careers, being able to let go of things that some things you just have to put down.
Yeah.
So now the thing is, okay, well, there's the check. What I need to do is work on loving me more,
Yeah.
and then the things that I need to let go of, they'll just naturally go, I think.
Yeah, and identifying what your standards are, identifying
Yeah.
where, setting your goal as to where you want to be, creating those steps towards getting there. That's what I've tend to focus on more nowadays. And I in being self-employed and like, okay, I can kill this game, I can make a whole lot of money, but it's like, is that really what would drive me? And I'm getting more clear with my purpose of, I like to teach. I want to help people. I want to serve people. That's what my purpose is. I'm
I think
learning.
that's the cycle of life.
Yeah.
We learn, we do, we teach. We
Yeah.
learn, we do, we teach. And that just keeps going as we're doing a podcast now.
Right.
You asked me what's one thing, and here's, I'm the one that's married here for a very long time. My parents were divorced. And I remember the day that I married my husband, I told myself that that's never going to be an option. So it made me fight. It made us
I
fight.
love that.
But as I got older, I realized that was my belief in my head, and I understand why some things come to an end. Because
Oh.
I'm not going to keep myself, because of who I am, and learn to be in a position where if there is no growth or any contribution on both ends, or an understanding of what are we building still, right? Because we built a lot together, but then there's 20s, 30s, now
Yeah.
40, like that all look different. My daughter's also an adult now. So you reflect back, do I love the person I'm married to? Absolutely. But if that ever happens, I'm okay with that today. Before, it wasn't even, no way. Absolutely not. And his parents have been married forever. And, not to speak of that, it's not something I would wish upon my marriage to
Yeah.
be like. And I understand my mom now why she ended her marriages, which is teaching me a lot too. But I'm still a fighter. That letting go is not easy. So,
Yeah.
to that point, to an example, it's that belief.
I think that as you're saying this, it when you talk about what you believe then, I think letting go truly is about the why, right? Am I letting go because I'm afraid, or am I letting go as a reflection of self love? I think when you're loving yourself and making hard decisions to let go, and you're doing it as a sacrifice for love for yourself,
Mm.
and even sometimes for the other person, then you can let go. But I think when we're trying to let go because we're afraid, or we're not letting go because we're a fear, then I don't know. It's like then that's at that
But-
time.
And there's that old school thing, my word is my bond, right? Like I declared this and I'm going to see it through.
Mhm.
That's just who I am. Otherwise, I'm getting out of my character. I had to change that thought
Mm.
to
Gotcha.
certain things because this is the foundation I'm
Yeah.
built on, So it's a lot of that, to your point too. But it comes down to beliefs in self-love. Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean to me? Am I worthy to have something change and it still be okay, even though my word has shifted? My word can change. The bond that I have
Yeah.
to myself can change. To me, my character matters more than anything else because this is what I live with every day. And if I can't look at myself in the mirror and feel good about my spoken words and how I'm living, then I'm not going to be happy regardless of who I'm with or where I'm at in
Mhm.
life.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's conclude this. I think we should make this a 2-part because I
Okay.
think we can
That's
go really
good.
deep. Because I do want to also talk about letting go of like children, like when our kids are growing up, how we let go and let them get to their next step. Because I know a lot of parents, especially if you're we have only children, or for some people it's because they're maybe it's a single parent and they're kind of attached to their kids
Mm.
and
Mhm.
not wanting to let go. So I think that would be a really good segment just to kind of tap into in and of itself. But what do you want to conclude with the whole letting go, Carmen?
Letting go I think it's an ongoing process, to learn how to let go of things that you have been taught or, that are you find safety in. But I think it just boils down to really identifying and getting to know who you want to be as a person and what you're willing to accept in your life.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't fit, you have to learn it just doesn't fit.
To that point, my mind comes my closet, right? I love clothes and I have a lot of clothes and shoes or whatever, but I do purge. I go through and I find myself, although the intention is to get rid of stuff, I don't, because it comes back in season, or I can
Yeah.
create this other thing. I could do this outfit like that. Let me just switch it up. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing,
It just doesn't work anymore.
or it can later. I mean, I'm just saying
Right,
that's
no,
that
it's
thought,
true.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the thing with that.
I
But
think for me, I'm trying to just be more clear.
mhm.
If I say, well, maybe it'll work later, maybe this will happen later. I have one life
Right.
and I'm living probably the second half of my life. And I'm just really intentional about things and how I see my life being. And if things don't fit, and it might sound selfish where I need them to fit, and I need to fit in your life where you need me to fit. And if they align and those pieces connect, then good. And if they don't, and we're trying to force it, I'm just getting.
Mhm.
I don't want to do that anymore.
No, that's great.
and
That's
I want to be the light God gave me to be and live in that purpose.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if I continue to bring things in that don't work,
That dim you,
that
yeah.
take from me,
Mhm.
I'm minimizing myself because I don't want you to feel bad about what I said.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm a fixer, but I can also be like
Mhm.
a bitch,
Mhm.
So if that don't work for you, it just don't work for you, and it
Mhm.
don't work for me either.
Mhm.
So I gotta let stuff go.
Mhm.
I remember this time in my life where I was really going through a lot emotionally. And I remember I was literally having just a breakdown. The pain and everything, the circumstances at the time, it was just incredibly painful. And I remember I was in the shower and I was crying hysterically because I never cry in front of people, right? But it was my time to just purge. And I literally just fell to my knees. I was so emotional. I was just so spent. And I just heard this like whisper, like this thing, this like small little voice in the back of my head kept saying, let go. You got to let go. And when I stopped crying and I just stayed still for a second, I heard the last part and it was of her.
Mm.
And what I realized is that letting go isn't about the other person, the circumstances, the situation. Letting go means you surrendering and trusting your life for you.
Mhm.
And all this time I was trying to fight letting go of other things when really what I really need to let go of me, of myself, these stories, what I tell. You know, our intellect, our intelligence is what separates us from all other animals, but it is our greatest weapon, you know, but a weapon like a there's an Indian guy that says it's like a sword. If you don't know how to handle it, you'll cut yourself. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up and what should be, what couldn't be, how this is supposed to be like this. Should I let go? Should I not get low? And sometimes you just have to surrender to yourself and say, you know what? I'm just going to let go of her and trust the process. So that's what I have to say about letting go. Yeah.
That's good.
So anyhow, we like to thank you guys once again for watching. If you liked this show about letting go, please, we want comments. We want to hear from you. We will continue. We want to know what other things you guys want to hear from us. And again, like I said, next month, we will be going live, which will be fun because we want to get the interaction from the people that are listening. So thank you again for your support. And thank you for watching the Mindsetters. Lipstick Ladies, love ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.